Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Grand Farm's Innovation Series on Indoor Agriculture. How nice of a sight is this on this lousy winter that we are having? I just wanted to have fresh greens everywhere. So Eating Grow team, if we could make that happen, that would be fantastic. So my name is Andrew Jason. I am the Ecosystems Director here at Grand Farm, and I have my fantastic co-host Megan here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Myrdal. I'm one of the co-founders of Food of the North, and I also work with the NDSU Foundation supporting the College of Agriculture. And just want to echo Andrew, super excited to be here today and love being surrounded by fresh produce. This is awesome.
Without further ado, I want to welcome up our first speakers, and that's Jeff and Bart with Eating Grow Systems. And I would love to just kind of do a little background on how we got connected with them and how this whole conversation came about. Bart came up for a little crazy idea that we had around space agriculture. We hosted a space agriculture conference here. He came up and talked about his vision for how this tower here can help solve space agriculture problems and also problems on the Earth. He got connected while in town with Dr. Gary Studdy, who will also be presenting today. Then the collaboration started happening with Dr. Shetty over at NDSU, and we're so excited about welcoming them into this ecosystem. We believe that they are up to some really exciting work, and I'm so excited to welcome Bart and Jeff with Eating Grow Systems to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Andrew. So there's an old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. And I think we can all agree over these last couple of years and with current events, we are definitely living in interesting times. Eden was really begun by trends research that I was doing in 2013 and 2014, where we were looking at systemic problems that were going to be developing over the next generation. The fact that our traditional farming methods that had created so much abundance were not going to continue to be functional moving into the future. There wasn't enough arable land. The fact that we were draining the world's aquifers, the fact that we were dumping nitrogen into the oceans, creating deoxygenated zones and killing off the oceans. It simply wasn't sustainable. And so we knew that we had to develop solutions. And in parallel with that as well is what many call the fourth turning. The fact that on the horizon we could see that the continued political, economic, and social disruptions within our society were only going to continue to escalate. Now, throughout history, when we reach crisis moments like this, traditionally the powerful and the governments of the world have always had one solution, no matter what political alignment you may feel, which is centralization. Give us the power and we will take care of you. I didn't want that solution. So what I set off to do was to find the best minds and to bring them together so that we could offer an alternative. An alternative in the form of decentralized food production that could empower the individual, that could empower families and communities so that they could self-determine in this time of upheaval, in this time of rapid change. Along the way, through Providence, I was blessed to meet a wonderful partner, a man that I regularly call a genius, though he tries to shrug off the compliment of Jeff Raymond. And then through great partnerships with Grand Farm, Emerging Prairie, we met Dr. Stute and we met Dr. Shetty, men of equal intelligence who have a burning desire to help empower people with food independence. And fundamentally, that is the message and that is the mission that Eden embodies, which is in our mission statement, to bring food and power independence to families and communities on Earth and one day off of it. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to my genius partner, Jeff Raymond, so he can tell you how we're actually going to accomplish that.
Thanks. Well, thanks for everybody coming here. Thank you, Bart, for the introduction. He keeps saying genius, and I keep telling him, I'm the guy who stayed in the library every day when everyone else went out and had fun. If there's anything you could say about me is I'm persistent. And that's something I would love to translate. I have actually my first person from YouTube that we met via YouTube relationship here. He could tell you that one thing that I really believe in is never giving up and always just keep going, and don't let anyone tell you that because you're not a PhD or because you don't have these skills or you don't have this setup that you can't do things. And as we look at the technology that is required for indoor growing, I think what we see is a trend doing the exact opposite of what I just said. The trend is more, especially for the big guys, is we know how to do this, you can't do it, it costs too much money, the capital to get into it is too high, and what we wanted to do at Eden is say, no, we don't want to do that. So what you're looking at is a really simple solution, and for an engineer, I've heard it now quite a few times in my visits, your solution appears to be very simple. And I can tell you that if you're an engineer and you hear someone say that you have a solution that is simple and it works, I cannot feel better about the work that we've done. Simple means robust. When you add complexity to things, things tend to go wrong. So you're looking at a pump that moves water into roots and the plants grow. If there's genius in it, it's in its simplicity. And what we want to do is be able to take technology like this and translate it to the individual. So we're looking, and the families, as Bart was saying, we want to be able to have people grow food on location. When we look at large-scale indoor ag, which, by the way, Eden believes we need farmers in the fields. We need people doing victory gardens. If you have a place in your home, a deck on your patio in an apartment, you should be growing food. Right now, everybody should be growing food. If you don't know how to grow food, start watching YouTube. I know a really good channel you can go check out. It's not mine. Epic Gardening is actually really good. You can go there. He does a great job teaching people how to grow food. And when you look at the big guys, they have a lot of technology that requires you to have a lot more experience than even just having a farmer. And a farmer, by the way, as I've said all the time, they're miracle workers. When you meet a farmer, you need to thank them for the work they do because it is really amazing. What we've tried to do is take the learning curve that is involved with growing food and flatten it. Insert joke about 2 weeks to flatten the curve here. But we really want to try to make it super simple for people to get into growing food. And for me personally, I had a huge humbling experience as I went through and I started off, and I was one of those people, I'm like, I don't know what the big deal is about growing food. You need soil, you need seed, you need sunlight, air, add water, step back, and everything happens. That is so far from the truth. Today, I still think it's a miracle that we even have food, quite honestly. With the bugs, the pests, the disease, I think we have a lot of NDSU students here that you study and do R&D just to make sure we can have food. We have genetics, we have everything going into it, but what we wanted to take with this tower is just give people something simple. You know, this is essentially a roll-in refrigerator appliance that instead of storing your food, it grows it for you. And that is something that I'm very, very proud of. And of course, if you're growing food, and you understand, like having a garden, you're always in front of the garden. You're always there tending it, you're weeding it, you're taking care of all those things. Essentially, you can't go anywhere. With this, we brought in technology, the kind of technology that makes a lot of sense. It is Wi-Fi, it can be connected to an app, you can control it remotely, you can monitor it remotely. And those things allow people who are really, really busy with everything else in their life, they can keep doing those things with minimal investment. So total time to manage this tower is less than 5 minutes per day. Now you have a garden that's doing the same thing, it's gonna take more and you're not gonna be able to go. So I'm very excited about the way that you look at technology as like fire, and fire can warm you or fire can burn you. And what we have here is a technology that can warm you very, very well.
As we have been in town, we've had a lot of conversation around the decentralization and the food desert. So, especially in North Dakota, rural communities, and also urban food deserts. So I guess talk about your big picture vision about how a system similar to this can help alleviate that problem. And I think Dr. Shetty is really going to kind of expand on that thought too.
I have no doubt that Dr. Shetty will be able to expand on everything. So it's been a pleasure meeting you, and I mean that nicely. So one of the things we've gained in experience in talking with a lot more people is when we look at large-scale agriculture that's trying to do indoor ag, which again is necessary and important, the capital cost that it takes to get those things set up is very, very large. If we look at organizations such as Plenty, which I think is amazing, they have technology that I can only dream about getting my hands on, robots from Japan and Sweden, et cetera. But their total facility costs and everything is about $25 million, according to one of the articles that I read. So if you just think about the timeline that it takes to go through permitting, getting approval, having your architect do the design, engineer approve everything, get your general contractors, get everything set up, that's pretty long. You're talking about years. Whereas a solution like this, it's truly decentralized down to the very little things is you can get this thing set up. When I shipped this one here, I was recording YouTube. It took me 1 hour and 49 minutes on the timer. And I stopped and I was talking to people and sharing. So it's about 1 hour. So you get this tower. Within 1 hour, you have it assembled. It comes mostly, it's not IKEA. You know, it's like, it comes mostly assembled. The instructions are pretty simple. And you get it set up. You add water. You put nutrients in it. The guys at NDSU took care of that for us. And you put a seed in. You turn on the computer, tell it you planted stuff, and the computer is going to just take over from there. So if you look at the big guys, which again is important, by the time they can move into a community, we are already been in the community. We'd already be feeding people, which is what our mission is. We want to feed people. So the towers themselves are just units. They're fully self-contained.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is really interesting here is, so, you know, we believe that humanity needs to reconnect with agriculture, the land, sustainability. Talk about what this can do from an education standpoint, from just bringing people a real life connection to their agriculture.
Yeah, I hear that. I think it's an urban legend back home. We have a grocery store called Trader Joe's. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. But they asked a kid in school, you know, where does food come from? And the answer was, you know, Trader Joe's. Obviously, it's probably an urban legend, but the idea is that people have become disconnected from their food. We don't appreciate and understand where our food comes from. Our very first customer is actually a church, and they're using the tower to teach STEM to a young men's group. So it's immediately got them into the community to do the fundraising, which made us feel really good because they're out there helping people. They're cleaning yards. They're going and talking to people, helping carry groceries. They raised the money. They got the tower. And then they're using it to teach science, technology, engineering, and math to these kids. And then they're understanding how to grow food. They're reconnecting. And we want to multiply that. Bart's been leading us in that. We want to set up a STEM initiative that we can repeat and drop. Dr. Shetty, working with you and some of the curriculum that you have, we'd like to be able to get that so people really do understand where their food comes from, but we can do it in a way that's not overwhelming. Like if you go build a garden, it's overwhelming. So that's a short answer.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I also don't know if you actually plugged the name of your YouTube page, so you want to plug the channel?
Yeah, shameless plug. Yeah, if you want to see how crazy I really am and what Bart and I have been working on, go check out therealmartian.com and ask me later why it's called The Real Martian.